Okay, my first question is, what is the Karsh STEM Scholars Program?
The Karsh Scholars Program is a replication of a program that exists at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, whose purpose is to increase the diversity of underrepresented minorities in STEM at the highest level. The reason why we focus on the highest levels is because there those are often places where the greatest impact on the lives of other people is happening. Crafting the best policy and the best laws that's going to impact everyone should involve representatives from all the groups. And they bring different perspectives, different lived experiences that help us to think about how can we make these laws, these policies more inclusive and more representative. So we need people to do that, and that's part of our goal. Because out of diversity, we think we get the best solutions.
With the Karsh STEM Scholars Program, how did you end up getting involved?
Interesting. Again, here's the universe at work. I had spent the last 20 years of my career in community college education. I had become a vice president of student affairs. I did not like being a vice president of student affairs. It wasn't what I thought it would be. I was actually on the path towards the college presidency. The closer I got to it, the more I realized it wasn't for me. And I had a sister, my youngest sister was very ill, and we knew that she was not going to survive it. And so the combination of wanting to walk away from that, but more importantly, to leave and provide support for my sister, led to my retirement. I had talked to a close colleague of mine about what my plans were, and I told her I intend to go back to work. I just don't want to be a senior administrator anymore. I didn't enjoy it, took me too far away from students. And so she was aware of that. She was consulting at Howard University. And they wanted to replicate the Morehouse Scholars Program. But when they got to the part of the discussion where they were talking about hiring a director, she remembered the work that I'd done. So she called me and she said, Howard's going to be looking for a director to put this program together and then implement it and run it. And you said you want to get back close to students, so you may want to throw your hat in the ring. And when the job was posted, I did. Luckily, I was chosen for the position and have been doing it now for 5 years.
That's awesome. What memorable experiences do you have being the director?
Oh, wow. That's a hard one. I'll try to extract a few. As we were planning and preparing our first selection weekend, there's some things you just can't plan for.
Right.
They happen. We had invited probably around 120 students to the first selection weekend. And, the students get all dressed up
Right.
and, polished up and shined up, and they come to compete. And so there's about 300 and some odd people in the audience. And then I walked up on stage and I looked out on the audience at all of these young, black and brown, really smart kids. And I have to be honest with you, I was overwhelmed. It was really an emotional moment. And I'm standing and I'm going and I'm having to collect myself. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't be standing up here, boo-hooing in front of all these people. That's not what they're here for. But it was that impressive. It was that overwhelming. It was that exciting. So that's one of the memories that I will keep with me forever.
So I have just two more questions. You talk a lot about how Karsh has been,
I thought you were going to stop there. You talk a lot.
but you talk a lot about your past experiences and how Karsh has been impacting you and how your future has impacted you for Karsh. But I also want to understand where you see the future of Karsh heading.
What I hope the future holds is an expansion of the program. I'm very, very deliberate in my efforts to not let it get too big without having all of the necessary resources and supports in place to be able to sustain the quality and the value of what it is that we say we're doing. But I would like to get to the point where we're maybe bringing in 50 or 60 students in a cohort. I would also like to see the Karsh STEM Scholars Program impacting the rest of the university in ways that improves the quality of the student experience for a larger group of students. They may not have the Karsh experience, but I think they all deserve to have some of what is best about the Karsh STEM Scholars Program.
Do you think that Karsh STEM would ever be opened up to for non-STEM majors, or is that always going to be?
Karsh STEM Scholars Program won't be, but you can replicate this model for any discipline. Now, I have to be fair in that, and acknowledge the fact that this is a very expensive proposition. But I think that there are parts of it that don't cost a lot of money that you can replicate in other disciplines and improve the quality of the student experience. Summer Bridge for other disciplines will cost money, but I think it's money well invested, and I don't think it's the amount of money that makes it impossible to do.
I really like that you mentioned Summer Bridge, because I had spent 6 weeks in Summer Bridge, and it was really evident that a lot of other students had spent their summer doing other things. And whereas I had been practicing how to be a better college student all summer, they were just coming off of a lull. They were scrambled. They didn't have their schedule figured out. They were still in the mentality of being high school seniors. And I think a lot of those things we were accustomed to in high school, we got rid of those mentalities in Summer Bridge. And it was a struggle. It was a hard struggle, but it was worth it.
Yeah, well, you got it. Obviously, you got it, and that speaks to the value of that kind of experience. And that's one of the reasons why that piece I would love to see replicated across the institution.
For any students thinking about applying for Karsh in the future, what advice do you have for them?
I'm always cautious not to provide too much information, because the one thing we don't want students to do is to try and figure out the recipe.
Right.
And then try to mold themselves to meet the recipe, to appear as they think we want them to appear. So I would say put together a well thought out application packet that you have invested yourself in that represents you authentically. I know that from my 43 years of coaching lacrosse. You can send me, videotape of you playing the game, and if you cut out all of the mistakes that you've made and all you send me is your triumphs, then what am I supposed to assume? That you're the perfect lacrosse athlete? I know better than that. What I want you to do is send me a game. And looking at that game, I want to see the things that you've done well and the things that you didn't do well and that you need to work on, because that's what we're here for. That's what we're investing ourselves in. We're not trying to polish perfection. We're trying to help students become better at what it is that they say they want to do. And don't try to write essays that are prose. Tell your story as it relates to the experience that you want as a Karsh STEM scholar. Don't tell your story for dramatic effect and think that the drama will influence us.
So that's about it. What I wanted to mention before we ended the video was, so my mom, she has sent me this email, and it was a link to a blog post. It was asking the reader what are their questions, because when we come into life, we come in with intrinsic curiosities. We come in with questions that we want to solve, or we come in with a problem to find a solution. And those questions, those curiosities, they develop who we are so that we can answer them as we get older. And as you were talking about your passions for going to college, for advocating and helping students. I really saw that being some of the answers that you have mentioned from your childhood, and I thought that was really cool.
Thank you.
So, no, thank you for meeting with me.
Pleasure was mine.
That's all. Yeah. I'll see you at my small group.
So you don't tell people subscribe, comment, all that stuff?
Yeah, that's it. I will probably cut this shorter and make a video, and then as per usual, I'll put the whole thing on my podcast. All Curioscopy. Cheers.
Ciao.